All right, I am going to do a quick little sound check here to make sure that my microphone's working. So you'll hear me in the background. Once this picks up, just give me a second. All right, I am going to do a quick little sound check here. There we go, sound check done. All right. Sorry, I'm so not technologically savvy when it comes to doing all these mic, computer, all these things together. But I am glad you're here and I'm glad you're with me. Hello and welcome. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to go over a little bit about 3 secrets to why you find yourself eating when you're not really hungry, and 7 ways to help you combat the urge that you can put into action in your life today so that you can finally begin to break through and see your healthy lifestyle changes take effect. So you're in the right place here today. If you're wondering why you eat when you're not really hungry and how to change that pattern, if you're done reinventing the wheel and you want someone to tell you what works and what doesn't for real and not feed you another diet, I'm so anti-diet, you will learn that the more you listen to me. And if you want to discover what's keeping you stuck so that you can get unstuck, and if you're ready to finally have a healthy relationship with food so that you can lose weight and allow your best self to shine, then you are in absolutely the right place. In fact, if this is you, it's no accident that we're together. But first, how did I end up here talking about food, mindset, and losing weight? So a little bit about me. If you don't know me very well, my name is Heather, and I'm a transformational health and life coach specializing in mindset and habit change. And I've been working with women over the past 6 to 7 years to help them make peace with their bodies, rev up their metabolisms, and get unstuck from unconscious habits that are holding them back from living a life they love in a body they love. But I wasn't always here, feeling in control and feeling good about walking around in the skin that I'm in. And in fact, there was a point in time where I had let my crazy busy life just own me. My stress levels, trying to stay at the top of the pecking order at my job, while simultaneously trying to raise 2 kids and run a household, was taking its toll on me mentally and physically. I was burnt out and my eating wasn't the best. I ate a lot of comfort foods and I drank my fair share of wine to kind of take the edge off of things and feel good, at least in the moment. And combine those poor eating and drinking behaviors, lots of carbs, lots of sugars, with a sedentary desk job, and no real exercise to speak of, and me crashing into my 40s, well, the weight just started to pile on. And before I'd realized it, I had gained 20 pounds and the seams on my pants were at dangerous risk of coming apart. No joke. I was miserable. I had no energy and I literally come home after work and just crash, like no quality time for my kids. And I hated with a passion my reflection in the mirror, like to the point of launching scathing criticisms at myself for letting myself go. The person in the mirror just wasn't me. And I knew I needed to get the weight off, but the crazy part was I struggled. I struggled to get it off. All the old tricks I'd used when I was young to shed weight fast for a wedding or a beach vacation just didn't work. Like starvation diets, magic pills. I even did the all apple diet, which I do not recommend. And all of those things failed to get the needle on the scale to budge in the right direction. It was like my metabolism had completely come to a stop, and I was about to throw the towel in and give up until I discovered how my self-sabotaging behaviors and mindsets were impacting my success. And using that understanding helped me really get off the diet bandwagon and find and establish healthy habits that will last a lifetime. But before stay on to the end because I have a really cool surprise for you. I literally just finished it this morning, and that surprise is going to help you finally break through, find your motivation, rev up your metabolism, and love the body you're in. It's true. So today I'm going to take you a step in the right direction by taking you behind the curtain and showing you a key piece for success that the health, wellness, and diet books almost always leave out. We all know what to do, right? Eat more veggies, drink more water, ditch the junk food. So what's the big freaking deal? Well, it comes down to mindset and our unconscious beliefs and behaviors. And that's where I specialize. So let's learn a little bit more so that you can break through, shall we? Today, we're going to talk about what I call honoring hunger and fullness. We'll talk about what that means, why it's important, and how to practice it. So if you want to get big results, then what you eat is only one part of the picture. We also have to look at how you eat. In other words, who are you being when you eat? Do you eat when you're not actually hungry because it's noon and you're mentally programmed that at noon it's time to eat? Or do you eat too little or too much for your body's actual energy needs? Like starve yourself all day and then find yourself raiding the pantry in the evening? By the end of today's chat, you'll have a deeper understanding of this. So we're going to start with identifying the different ways hunger manifests for each of us. And it's not as black and white as we might think. Like a grumbling belly isn't always the reason we eat. We can get the urge to eat for a myriad of different reasons. And hunger is not always triggered by the sole function of your body needing to fuel to continue to maintain operations. If you've ever felt compelled to eat in response to a stressful situation or over a breakup or even if you were completely bored, then you understand where I'm headed. Like we are unique creatures, because we not only hunger for food, but we hunger for food to fill a void in our bellies, but also we hunger for food to fill a void in our hearts and in our minds. And trying to fill the voids in our hearts and our minds is a food trap that many of us fall into from time to time, and often more often than we like, right? So there are 4 main ways that your body will trigger the urge to eat. The first one's purely physiological. And this is the place where we all want to kind of get back to, right? It's the purest form of hunger. If you haven't eaten in a long time, you'll notice a prompt will pop into your head that you should get something to eat. And not too long after, your stomach will start to growl. This is your natural state. These are your natural hunger cues. The second way is way more mental. You could call it head hunger. It is cravings oriented. I often talk about the seafood diet. You see food, you want to eat it. If it's within reach, you'll want it. Like you will be triggered to eat or drink something specific, like a donut, pizza, candy bar, Starbucks, frappuccino, a caramel frap, or whatever the specialty coffee is. Or perhaps you're on a diet and they're like donuts in the break room, right? And because you cannot have donuts on your diet, all those carbs, fat, and sugar, that will be inevitably the one thing that you're hyper-focused on and crave, regardless of how stale the donuts may be by 3 p.m. or how truly hungry you really are. You can't have it, so it's all you're thinking about. The third way hunger can manifest for you is based on an emotional trigger. I call this heart or soul hunger. This is based on a learned behavior pattern that likely started years ago, maybe even in childhood. Like when you're happy, sad, angry, stressed, you may feel the need to reach for the aptly termed comfort food. Think about it. When I say we're going to go to a birthday party, what's one of the first things that you think about? Cake. I used to work for a Fortune 100 company, and when things started to get stressful and chaotic, the first thing out of my coworkers, and even my mouth, was, what time's happy hour? Like, I need a drink. Yeah, booze falls into this category too. Basically, food and drink becomes a coping mechanism for us in stressful or bad situations. Like seriously, how many people have been cooking more since COVID came around, and how many people have been drinking more since COVID came around. Like, it was a stressful situation, and that's what we used to cope. And we do this all out of habit because we saw it modeled by people close to us. And then when we tried it and we did it enough times that our brain created a neural shortcut that says when I'm stressed or sad or happy, because it could even be celebratory, I eat or drink. And the last one is the one that I'm extremely conscious of falling prey to. There's a saying that used to be on a plaque or a mug at my grandma's house. It said something like, idle hands are the devil's workplace. And it's true. When we're bored, our brain looks for ways to create a little excitement, and quite often in the form of food. If you've ever woken up, and I'm using air quotes there, to find yourself staring absently into the pantry looking for something, anything to eat, and you weren't actually physically hungry, the devil has come to make a visit and thinks those Cheez-Its looks really appetizing, if you know what I mean. You're not actually hungry, you're bored. That's it. And your environment also plays into this. I think of boredom eating also like zombie or mindless eating. You're not even hungry, but you're compelled to eat. And there's plenty of ways that this happens. One is habit or ritual related. Like, think about it. You come home from work, change out of your clothes into your comfy clothes, and then next thing you know, you're in the kitchen with a glass of wine and a snack because that's what you do every day after work, even when you weren't even really physically hungry. Another way this manifests is almost hypnotic. You're chilling, watching your favorite TV show, a commercial comes on for a fast food restaurant that you like, and next thing you know, you're up in the pantry looking for something to eat, even though you just finished dinner an hour ago. In a way, when you're watching TV, you actually are in a hypnotic state, and when those commercials interrupt, they plant a seed in your subconscious, and I'm not joking here. So why do you think it works so well with our kids? Like, they want Frosted Flakes, and they want that toy, and they want this, and they want that, all because of the stinking commercials. And when that's executed on enough, that seed that was planted grows into a habit or a ritual, and you find that within half an hour of chilling with your favorite TV show, eating something in asham. It's kind of scary, right? To know what's going on. But like, the first step to lasting change is to shed light and awareness into those behaviors. And the next step is to take action. Like, which one do you find yourself doing the most? It could be a blend, or there may be one that is more dominant, like it is for me, and boredom. So the first trick to putting a kibosh on eating when you're not truly hungry is to really key in to your body and mind and bring awareness to your ingrained habits and learn to honor your hunger and fullness cues. They are there within reach. We've just learned to ignore them until now. So let's really turn up the volume on those signals, shall we? So how do we honor hunger? Well, the first step is to understand that true hunger is, and be mindful of it. Honoring hunger is about recognizing what happens internally before you get hungry. So instead of waiting until you're so hungry you could eat a horse, you tune into the internal signal that the body needs nourishment. It's kind of like the gas tank on your car, right? Like, there's a buffer zone before you get into the red. My car actually does yellow before it gets into the red. So this is the yellow area that you're in. When that gas light first appears, depending on what your car is, you may have 20 or 30 miles to go before you actually run out of gas and come to a halt. So we don't want to wait until we run out of gas to eat. Why? Because that's when the crazy unleashes, right? Notice what happens when you're super hungry. Do your eyes glaze over and you slump in your chair, unable to do anything? Do you become an unreasonable, hangry jerk? Oh my God, like, I have a great story about my kids in Disney when they got so hangry that their inner Joe Pesci and Betty White came out in the middle of freaking Epcot. I'm not kidding you. They literally got into a fist fight at the turn between the turn into Mexico, when we were going to have lunch in Italy. And if you've been to Epcot, Italy's way on the other freaking side of where the countries are, right? So I looked back at them and I was like, I can't deal with this. Can't deal with the hangry. And I knew they were super hungry. So I looked back at them and I ran as fast as my flip-flops would let me. I knew no amount of tequila shots in Mexico would get me or them past the hangry. So I just bolted. And my little goslings followed me exactly like I thought that they would. I've got to be on camera. Like there may be a video somewhere doing this. And luckily security didn't tackle me for trying to like ditch my kids in the middle of Disney. But we made it to Italy. Crisis was averted. No one was hurt. But I mean, the truth is, like, hangry's a real state. We got our pizza. That's what we were there to get. We had reservations. We were getting pizza, and everybody chilled out, and we had a great time. It's a great story now, but hangry is a serious, really real state. So when you're hangry, who do you take it out on? Do you end up eating things that you wouldn't normally choose to eat simply because it's within reach and you feel desperate? Do you ever do that while you're cooking dinner? Like you're so hungry cooking dinner that you're noshing on stuff along the way? Every bite nibble counts. Anything that like really makes the pain go away, right? And if you let yourself get too hungry, it's almost impossible to think clearly or make good decisions for ourselves. And the need to feel physically full it becomes so irresistible that you'll eat almost anything, like 5 pieces of toast, a candy bar, a whole pint of ice cream, cocoa powder with a spoon, tomato sauce, and maybe some breadsticks if they're handy. And even after all that, you may still feel unsatisfied because it wasn't a real meal. The body's appetite mechanism is still searching for the real meal, and it won't shut down until you had what feels like a real meal. So the first step is to recognize hunger. What lets you know that you will soon be hungry? What are the signs? Like if I had to replace you for a day and feed myself based on what you're telling me, how would you be able to tell me that you're hungry at the right time so that I can feed you? You're like a Tamagotchi. I'm not going to let you die, but you got to tell me when to feed you. What would I see or hear or feel to cue me into the fact that you're getting hungry? Think about that for a minute. What underlying triggers or cues are manifesting for you to let you know that you're hungry, that your body needs fuel? Is your stomach growling? Like, do you have low energy? Like you're just dragging, your shoulders are down, your feet are dragging, you have no energy and you just can't concentrate? Does the hunger grow gradually? And like, when was the last time you actually ate a meal? Was it like 3-4 hours ago? So let me teach you how to get into better touch with the signals that your body is sending you. Sometimes they're very freaking subtle. We're going to create our own hunger scale from 1 to 10. Now, I actually have 2 of them, but for the sake of this slide, I've smushed them all into 1. But let's talk about the hunger scale first, right? So let's go back to the car analogy. So a 2 to 3 on this scale is when the gas light would come on. And it's the indicator that it's time to plan for nourishment. If you got all the way at the far side of this, where you were like, you had no gas in the tank, you would be like, psycho bitch, hungry, wouldn't you? And we don't want it to let it get there because you're going to set yourself up for poor food decisions. So you want to start planning for food or planning to eat when you're at a 2 or 3. Makes sense? Okay, so let's talk about honoring fullness because there's 2 sides to this spectrum. And we can also create a fullness scale from 1 to 10 too. But again, I smushed the 2 scales together for the purpose of our conversation today. So 10, you get a 10 on the scale, like you feel awful. You feel so stuffed that you need to unbutton your pants to breathe. You need elastic band pants, like Thanksgiving stuffed. Roll me to the couch like I couldn't eat another freaking bite. And what we're looking for on the fullness scale is probably around a 6 to 7, where you're nourished and energized from food, satiated but not stuffed. It means eating to about 75% fullness. And that's really the key there. You almost want to think about it as not eating to feeling full, but eating rather to no longer feel hungry. slight flip on that script, not till you're full, but only till you're not hungry anymore. And that will help you really hone in on your fullness scale. So I want to give you some practices for creating new habits around honoring hunger and fullness. So intellectually, the hunger and fullness scale seems very simple. Start planning to eat when you're at a 2 to 3 on the scale and stop eating when you're at a 6 to 7. Seems simple enough, right? But here's the problem. Like I just was mentioning, most of us have habits of eating beyond fullness. Like when you go out for Chinese food, it's me, I freaking love Chinese food. Do you love Chinese food? I love Chinese food. And there's so much food. It's just sitting there in front of you and it tastes so good. So you pick up one more piece from the serving dish and then you're engaged in conversation and you mindlessly pick another piece. And before you know it, your belly hurts and you're wishing you didn't overeat and you really didn't plan on it, but you still did it almost mindlessly. Does that sound familiar? Well, if it does, you're a lot like me. And if you love Chinese, you're a lot like me. And one big, huge secret that I've learned to deal with my own little hunger demons is to have conversations with myself. Not like a cat lady mumbling to herself while pushing a cart down the street, maybe a little bit, but actually intercepting my hunger and craving thoughts. Not taking them at face value, like, oh, I'm thinking about Cheez-Its, I should eat Cheez-Its. Like, don't let that be the next thing that you think. When I know good and well that Cheez-Its, because they're not what you really need. Like, are Cheez-Its ever what you really need from a fuel my body, get nutrition standpoint? No, not at all. From a wow, it tastes amazing on my tongue, that's a totally different perspective altogether. And if I eat Cheez-Its, right, or whatever, whatever your favorite junk food is, it could be Pringles, it could be potato chips, it could be potato skins, whatever it is, right? You're going to mindlessly munch away and then send yourself into a guilt spiral. And that's not going to help anybody whatsoever, right? It makes sense? So, and you know this too when you're craving something. So the trick is understanding in that moment, when the craving hits, what it is that truly needs to be nourished. And then having the nerve to ask yourself what you truly need. Like 9 times out of 10, it isn't actually freaking food. Most of the time, it's habits and routines, emotions, and a gluttony to the point of driving our cravings to eat. And if it's there, we need to eat it, No. So let's talk about creating some new habits, especially around fullness, because that's where most people get tripped up. So here are 7 ways you can practice honoring your inner intuitive hunger and fullness scale. So start planning what and when to eat when you're at that level 2 to 3 on the hunger scale, right? Planning is key. And when you fail to plan, you plan to fail, straight up. If you don't have healthy foods in your back pocket to eat when hunger strikes, you are liable to grab whatever is closest and easiest. Don't fall prey to that. Have nuts, fresh fruits, veggies, hummus, cottage cheese, and yogurt cups handy for snack time. And obviously, plan your lunch. Like I personally find packing my lunch is the best way to handle unfortunate eating incidents. And in my car, I have what I termed car nuts. I always have a package or 2 of nuts in the car because there are times when we're out and the day's gotten busy and hunger strikes and you want to have something that is nutritious and satisfying on hand, or else you're going to eat a bunch of junk. An unfortunate eating incident, right? A snack accident. All right, number 2, eat high energy foods that your body actually wants. Whole foods, real foods. Stay clear as much as possible from processed and sugary foods. They just put you on the blood sugar roller coaster and you don't want to be there. And obviously don't deny those foods because you'll obsess over them, but think like 80-20. But have 80% be real food. If it grows from the tree or from the ground, eat it as close to nature as you can get. This is what your body is meant to run on. Sadly, it's not Dunkin', right? All right, number 3, eat for energy. Aim for a level 7 on your inner intuitive fullness scale versus a level 10 when you're so full you have to unzip your pants and take a nap. Like another way to look at this mindset hack, which I think I kind of mentioned, is to eat until you notice you're no longer hungry. In general, we eat pretty mindlessly. And that's what gets us into sticky situations with food. When it finally hits the brakes, when we feel full instead of not hungry. So focus on feeling not hungry anymore. Take notice of the fact that, you know what, I'm not hungry anymore and my cravings have dissipated, rather than eating until you just can't eat anymore. That is a bad indicator, and that'll get you into trouble. Because it takes like 20 minutes for your stomach to send signals to your brain that you're done eating. And by that time, you've likely eaten way too much. So focus on that moment where you notice you are satisfied and no longer hungry. And that's when you stop. Number 4, make a physical gesture that your meal is complete by pushing your plate away, putting a napkin over it, or crossing your silverware over top of it, or even feed it to your dog. We've done that way too much. Our dog's way too fat now. Ever notice when you're at a restaurant and you put the napkin over your plate, like you're not going to pick it back up and start eating again. Once you recognize that you're no longer hungry, recognize it's time to stop and use the napkin or silverware as your symbolic gesture to yourself to stop. Number 5, declare out loud to yourself or whomever you're eating with that you're full. This will dissuade you from continuing to eat because you've already announced that the meal was complete for you. This works wonders for me. Number 6, if you're out, ask your server to box up the rest of the meal so it's not calling you hither. It's the seafood phenomenon. If it's there staring at you, you're going to want to nibble away. Number 7, don't be afraid to have the hard conversations with yourself. Learn to distinguish between the forms of hunger. Ask yourself what you're really craving. Is this heart or soul hunger? Is it boredom? Or is it true physical hunger? And have smart plans for how to attack them. The first step is recognizing what's going on internally. The second is actually taking action. So if you're trying to cope or soothe your soul with food, or your brain is looking for some entertainment and wants to boredom eat, like what non-food ways could you use to cope, nourish, or entertain yourself? Crafting, like I crochet and I knit, that works wonders for me. Reading, scrolling Pinterest, like getting a massage, a bubble bath, like what are some things that you can do? Okay, so remember I told you I had something special for you. So because you stayed on to the end of this, I have got all of my free resources for you in one webpage. And I just pulled this together right now. And it's something that I want to be able to give to you for staying on and listening, because I appreciate you and I appreciate you taking the time to want to learn more about how you can make small, subtle changes to create a life you love so that you can live a life you love in a body you love. So go ahead and go out to glowforlifefitness.com/resource. And I've got a ton of free resources out there for you that'll help you kickstart lasting change. Hacks and tips and recipes and all sorts of great stuff out there. And make sure to bookmark that page, because I'm going to continue to add to that as I develop more free resources. So you can go back there and have access to them. So go check it out. I really appreciate you hanging out here with me and listening to my 3 secrets. And hopefully there were some nuggets in here that you can apply today to your life. And I encourage you to apply today to your life, because information is just information until you take consistent action on it to make it become a habit for life. So thank you again for taking the time to hang out with me. I appreciate you stopping by. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.